Good morning, and today is a very special day. I am Randy Lavender, pastor of Jackson Avenue Church of God, Holiness in Huntington, West Virginia. Today is May the 10th, 2020, and our scripture reading is found in Proverbs, the 31st chapter and the 28th verse, and 2 Timothy, the 1st chapter, verses 5 through 7. In Proverbs, the 31st chapter and 28th verse, it says, "Her children arise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her." And in 2 Timothy, the 1st chapter, and the verses 5 through 7, it says, "When I call to remembrance the unfeigned faith that is in thee, which dwelt first in thy grandmother Lois, and thy mother Eunice, and I am persuaded that in thee also. Wherefore I put thee in remembrance that thou stir up the gift of God, which is in thee by the putting on of my hands. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, and of love, and of a sound mind." A mother in the church put her son to bed on the evening of his 5th birthday. She was trying to communicate that birthday idea to him. She said, "Kevin, this is the last night of your 4th night. Do you understand that?" Kevin was ready to communicate with his hands. For a full year, he had shown people 4 fingers for his 4 years, him being 4 years old, and now he was ready to add a thumb. Seeing his 4 fingers, his mother nodded and said, "When you go to sleep tonight, you'll still be 4 years old, but do you know how old you'll be in the morning when you wake up?" Kevin nodded enthusiastically, added his thumb to his 4 little fingers, and said, "Tomorrow I'll be a handful." I want to dedicate this day to all the mothers who've had their hands full. We celebrate this day on Mother's Day. If I was physically in church today, I would ask people in the congregation what their mothers meant to them. Since I can't do that, I am giving every mother these flowers. I appreciate you and all that you do. Today, the celebration of Mother's Day gives us an opportunity to honor our mothers and to challenge mothers to do everything they can to lead their families to commit themselves to the Lord. I really do thank the Lord for this today. Did you know that the idea for Mother's Day was born in a small Methodist church in Grafton, West Virginia? It was on 1876, and the nation still mourned the Civil War dead. While teaching a Memorial Day lesson, Mrs. Anna Reeves Jarvis thought of mothers who had lost their sons in the war. She prayed that one day there could be a Memorial Day for mothers. The prayer made a deep impression on one of Mrs. Jarvis's 11 children. Young Anna had seen her mother's efforts to hold the war split community and church together. As she grew into adulthood, the younger woman kept Mrs. Jarvis' dream in her heart. On the day of her mother's death, Anna was determined to establish Mother's Day in her honor. On May the 12th, 1907, a local observance was held which later spread to Philadelphia. By 1910, Mother's Day was celebrated in 45 states: Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Canada, and Mexico. Elated, Mrs. Jarvis told a friend, "Where it will end must be left for the future to tell. That it will circle the globe now seems certain." On May the 8th, 1914, President Wilson designated the second Sunday in May as Mother's Day for displaying the American flag and for the public expression of love and reverence for the mothers of this country. On May, Dr. Benjamin Carson, renowned surgeon at Johns Hopkins, tells a moving story about his mother. Mrs. Carson insisted that Ben and his brother Curtis write a book report every couple of weeks. This wasn't for school. This was for their mom. Ben asked Curtis dutifully, and they both obeyed. About the time he was in junior high, Ben finally realized something quite shocking. His mom couldn't read. For years, Ben had read books and scratched out reports, assuming that his mom was checking every word, but she didn't have a clue what he was saying. Now consider this. Raised by an illiterate mother, Ben grew up to be a world-famous surgeon who was featured in many articles and was the author of several books. His illiterate mom didn't twist her hands over her lack of learning and give up hope of raising intelligent boys. Instead, she gave her boys what she had: interest and accountability. Let me tell you something about mothers. God has given mothers a powerful incentive, a powerful innate passion to care and protect their children. The Bible calls it a natural affection, but the protection of a mother involves far more than just physical protection. A mother protects their children by teaching them the commands of God and then making sure that their children abide by them. Mothers need to understand that your children sometimes will play you if you let them, because they know your soft-heartedness and willingness to always care and protect them. If you're not careful, they will take advantage of you. Let me give you an example. For instance, a child gets drunk and gets arrested, and there is mom bailing out the child. A child demonstrates reckless abandon in their finances, and there is mom to the rescue, wanting to pay off their bills. This is not keeping their child from harm. It is empowering them to continue to harm themselves. This problem usually begins far before it is manifested in them as adults. Mothers often make this mistake early in the child's life simply because they can't stand them to suffer. A mother is compassionate. A mother's job in God's plan is to raise that child by protecting them from falling victim to a sinful world. And sometimes that means fighting against your desire to protect by allowing the child to feel the sting of their own wrong, to face their own consequences. Thomas Edison said, "I did not have my mother long, but she cast over me an influence which has lasted all my life. The good effects of her early training I can never lose. If it had not been for her appreciation and her faith in me at a critical time in my experience, I should never likely have become an inventor. I was always a careless boy, and with a mother of different mental caliber, I should have turned out badly. But her firmness, her sweetness, her goodness were potent powers to keep me in the right path. My mother was the making of me. The memory of her will always be a blessing to me." What does the acronym MOTHER, mother, stand for? Well, some say M is for the million things she gave me. O means only that she's growing old. T is for the tears she shed to save me. H is for her heart of purest gold. E is for her eyes with love light shining. R is right, and right she'll always be. Put them all together and they spell the word mother. There's an interesting statement about the difference between mothers and fathers. Mothers tend to worry about their children's safety and security. Fathers focus on their children's success. A mother frets over things like tender, loving care, while fathers push their children hard because they know they live in a world where failure is easy. Both are absolutely necessary in raising children and serving the Lord. A mother was overworked at one time and went to a psychologist. And after the mother explained her predicament to the psychologist and the trouble she was in, the psychologist said, let's see, you spend 50% of your energy on your work. You spend 50% of your energy on your husband and 50% of your energy on your children. I think I see your problem. And it equaled out 150%. A mother can be undervalued and unappreciated and then taken advantage of, but a child needs her mother. A Jewish proverb says, a child without a mother is like a door without a knob. Contrary to popular opinion, the most important characteristic of a godly mother is her relationship, not with her children, but with her husband. What you communicate to your children through your marital relationship will stay with them for the rest of their lives. By watching you and your husband, they are learning the most fundamental lessons of life: love, self-sacrifice, integrity, virtue, sin, sympathy, compassion, understanding, and forgiveness. Whatever you teach them about those things, right or wrong, and what they observe is planted deep within their hearts. In another sense, the world of the mother has been turned upside down. Some believe a mother is not necessary for raising children. Think of that. They don't see any reason to have the mother. The world is upholding very, very unhealthy relationships to raise children. The union of a woman and a man who are married, raising children, is the ideal combination that God intended to be. In Genesis, the first chapter, the 22nd verse, it says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And also in Genesis, the 4th chapter, the first verse, it says, and Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. Recently, Anderson Cooper, he's a news reporter on CNN, recently announced he and his male partner were parents of a baby boy named Wyatt. Michael Brown wrote an article about this. The article was called, To Anderson Cooper, Your Son Deserves His Mother, and that was published on May the 1st of this year. The article begins by saying, isn't it an amazing feeling to be a father? Yet when I saw the announcement of his birth, and that was Wyatt, I felt sadness more than happiness. Sadness for him and for you. Obviously, you don't know me from Adam, but you're a public figure. You made a public announcement, and I'm confident as a lesser-known public figure that I speak for many others as well. Anderson, he says, a boy deserves his mother. Yet if I understand your plan correctly, your son will not be raised together by her and by you. That's what saddens me the most. Can you imagine what your life would look like today without the influence of your mother? Can you imagine Anderson Cooper without Gloria Vanderbilt, or can you imagine only knowing her as the other half of a biological equation? Who would you be without your mom? Think back to all the memories the two of you share, especially since you lost your dad at the age of 10. Think back to the impact your mother had on you, who you are as a person. Think back to the tender moments that only a mother and child can appreciate and experience. And then ask yourself this question: is it right that Wyatt will never have the special relationship with his mother that you had with yours? Is it fair to deprive him by your own choice of having the benefit of a mom and dad? To be clear, I don't believe that you simply chose to be gay one day. I don't believe that any more than I chose to be straight. And I don't mean that you won't try to be an amazing dad and a devoted dad and a caring dad. But the world's best dad is not a mom, just as the world's best mom is not a dad. Yet you have made a decision to bring Wyatt Morgan Cooper into the world without a mother, even though he has a mother. That's because biology is very stubborn. And the way God created us, every human being has a mother and a father and is meant to be nurtured by both. Two men, no matter how much they love each other, cannot produce a child. It's the same with two women. But this is not simply a matter of biology, it's a matter of complementarity. The mother and the father each bring something unique and special in the relationship, more unique than the difference between two dads or two moms. That's because male plus male or female plus female can never equal male plus female. Who would you be today if your dad had been gay and made a decision to bring you into the world, to be raised by him and a male partner? Gloria Vanderbilt might have been your biological mother, but she would never have mothered you. Or would you be if you had a nanny instead of a mother? Again, by the choice of your father. And would you feel that your father did what was best for you by bringing you into the world to be deprived of your mother? That's the difference between your situation and that of a woman whose husband abandons the family. She is now a single mom and her kids are deprived of their dad, but not by her choice. In your case, Wyatt will be separated from birth from his mother by choice and not his own. Or will Wyatt simply be told one day that's your mother, leaving him to figure out what it's all about? It's a very touching to hear the time you spend with your mother after she was diagnosed with advanced stomach cancer at the age of 95. You said she lived 9 more days. Being able to spend those 9 days and nights with her was at a great, great blessing. They were the most extraordinary days of my life, and I'm very grateful. Unquote. Anderson, if those 9 days were so precious to you, the culmination of your lifelong relationship with your mother, shouldn't Wyatt have the opportunity to have his mother as well? In many ways, you are a private person, and I'm not trying, the writer says, to intrude in your life. And you may simply write me off as a hateful gay basher, but it's love that compels me to write what is best for Wyatt Morgan Cooper, unquote. A listener, Dr. James Dobson's radio program, Focus on the Family, wrote saying that she had discovered thousands of books had been taken from her public library. Investigation showed that these books were the ones based on the traditional roles of fathers and mothers. Fathers, the breadwinner, and mothers staying at home to rear the children. Now the shelves were stocked with books that portrayed the contemporary woman who pursued her career outside the home. The radical feminists have clearly defined goals they wish to achieve. In the process, they believe they must smash the traditional understanding of marriage, children, and religion so that equality can be brought about. Scripture warns us over and over again about the anti-God forces that are constantly at work to get us to adopt the values and attitudes of the world. What one quality among many stands out in the making of a mother? All of the other qualities of the godly mother are hinged on this one quality, love. Love is a major driving force in the godly mother. Not only a love for their children, not only a love for their husband, godly mothers must have a deep and unswerving love for God. This love is what motivates and develops the rest of the love that is in their life. Without the love for God, the rest of their life and love will be incomplete. Love is fuel for their lives. When life gets rough, a mother's love gives strength. When life gets tough, a mother's love gives power. When life lets you down, a mother's love gives encouragement. When life seems empty, a mother's love gives meaning. When life gets mundane, a mother's love gives enthusiasm. When life seems sad, a mother's love gives joy. When life gets confusing, a mother's love gives clarity. The love of a mother is never exhausted. It never changes. It never tires. It endures through all, in good reputation, in bad reputation, in the face of the world's condemnation. A mother's love still lives on. When was the last time you gave her a big hug, your mother, without her asking for it, or a kiss on the cheek, or a neck rub, or just sat down on the couch and held her hand for a change? She's the first person who ever touched you. She wrapped you up in her womb for months, and you came out, and first priority was to hold you, and she cuddled you, stroked your head, rubbed your feet, held your little cheeks against hers, gave you a finger to grasp. In love, she did all these things, including grooming you without a lick thumb. When you were little, she could say, "Give me sugar," and you'd pucker up, and she'd accept your wet, sloppy kiss and even say, "Thank you." You gave her bear hugs so tight she didn't have to hold on to you. You just cling to her as she walked around. She changed your diapers, potty trained you, and held the Kleenex for you to blow your nose. She wiped food off your face years longer than she should have had to do. Our mothers deserve to be honored and thanked this day. There was a story of a little boy, and came up to his mother in the kitchen one evening while she was fixing supper and handed her a piece of paper that he had been writing on. After his mom dried her hands on an apron, she read it, and this is what it said. For cutting grass, $5. For cleaning my room this week, $1. For going to the store, 50 cents. For babysitting my baby sister while you went to the store, 25 cents. For taking out the garbage, $1. For cleaning up and raking the yard, $2. For cleaning up and raking the yard, $2. Total owed, $14.75, the little boy said. The boy's mother looked at him standing there, and the boy could see the memories flashing through her mind. She picked up the pen, turned the paper over, and wrote this. For 9 months I carried you while you were growing inside me. No charge. For all the nights that I had sat up with you, doctoring and praying for you, no charge. For all the trying times and all the tears that you caused through the years, no charge. For all the nights that were filled with dread, and for the worries I knew were ahead, no charge. For all the toys, food, clothes, and wiping your nose, no charge. For all the diaper changes when you were a baby, no charge. She said, son, when you add it up, the cost of my love is no charge. When the boy finished reading what his mother had written, there were big tears in his eyes, and he looked straight at his mother and said, Mom, I sure do love you, and took his pen and in great big letters he wrote, paid in full. Someone once said, you know you got a mom when the kids are fighting and you threaten to lock them in a room together and not let them out until someone's bleeding. You know you're a mom when popsicles become a food staple. You know you're a mom when you're so desperate for adult conversation that you spill your guts to the telemarketer that calls you and he hangs up on you. You know you're a mom when spit is your number one cleaning agent. Being a mother is an awesome responsibility, and it's a difficult job. With the rising demand on a mother's time and resources, sometimes it's easy to forget how tough it is. That is until you see a bad mother. We don't want to talk about that. But like it or not every mother is a good and godly mother. In fact, I read this week testimonies about bad mothers. We won't review all of them, but I share that one testimony was my mother never showed me physical affection as I grew up early and in my early years. I was so unaccustomed to it. When I was older, I was in a near fatal car wreck. When my mom arrived on the scene, she ran over to me and I hugged her. She pushed me away. It's taken me years to learn that I am a good person and I deserve to be loved and hugged. Honestly, being a mom is demanding. And again, you think of the things our mothers taught us. My mother taught me logic. If you fall off that swing and break your neck, you can't go to the store with me. As well as if everyone else jumped off the cliff, would you do it too? My mother taught me humor. When that lawnmower cuts off your toes, don't come running to me. My mother taught me genetics. You are just like your father. My mother taught me anticipation. Just wait until your father gets home. My mother taught me about receiving. You're going to get it when I get you home. My mother taught me religion. You better pray that stain will come out of the carpet. My mother taught me about stamina. You'll sit there until all that spinach is finished. My mother taught me with the circle of life. I brought you into the world and I can take you out. And the all-time favorite thing my mother taught me, justice. One day you will have kids and I hope they turn out just like you. Then you'll see what it's like. I can't wait. Mothers have a hard job. On the day they're born until the day they die, mothers worry about their kids. When you're babies, you fret when we have the slightest sniffle, cough, or sneeze. When you're toddlers, you worry about all the things we can get at, or fall over or crash into, and you busily chase us around all day. When we're young children, you worry about our nutrition and make us eat yucky things like Brussels sprouts, spinach, and turnips. When we get to grade school, you worry if we're making friends or not, and if we're eating the things you picked in our lunch bag and packed in it, or trading our apples for Twinkies. When you're a teenager, we begin to worry big time. You worry about the drug and alcohol scene. You worry about our emerging sexuality. When you begin to drive, you go into a mild panic. And the first time we're 20 minutes late, you're ready to call out the National Guard. When we're adults, you worry about our career choices and indebtedness. When we're parents, you worry about how we are raising your grandchildren. I heard a story recently. It's about someone's mom. The person related the fact that his mom only had one eye. It goes on to say, I hated her. She was such an embarrassment. She cooked for students and teachers to support the family. There was this one day during elementary school where my mom came to say hello to me. I was so embarrassed. How could she do this to me? I ignored her, threw her a hateful look, and ran out. The next day at school, one of my classmates said, "Ew, your mom only has one eye?" I wanted to bury myself. I also wanted my mom to just disappear. I confronted her that day and said, "If you're only going to make me a laughingstock, why don't you just die?" My mom did not respond. I didn't even stop to think for a second about what I had said because I was full of anger. I was oblivious to her feelings. I wanted out of the house and have nothing to do with her, so I studied real hard, got a chance to go abroad to study. Then I got married. I bought a house on my own. I had kids of my own. I was happy with my life, my kids, and the comforts. Then one day my mother came to visit me. She hadn't seen me in years, and she didn't even meet her grandchildren. When she stood by the door, my children laughed at her, and I yelled at her for coming over uninvited. I screamed at her, "How dare you come to my house and scare my children? Get out of here now!" And to this my mother quietly answered, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I must have gotten the wrong address." And she disappeared out of my sight. One day a letter regarding a school reunion came to my house, so I lied to my wife that I was going on a business trip. After the school reunion, I went to the old shack just out of curiosity, my old house. My neighbors said that she died. I did not shed a single tear. They handed me a letter that she had wanted me to have. And it said this: "My dear son, I think of you all the time. I'm sorry that I came to your house and scared your children. I was so glad when I heard you were coming for the reunion, but I may not be able to get out of bed to see you. I'm sorry that I was a constant embarrassment to you when you were growing up. You see, when you were very little, you got into an accident and lost your eye. As a mother, I couldn't stand watching you have to grow up with one eye, so I gave you mine. I was so proud of my son, who was seeing a whole new world for me in my place with that eye. With all my love to you, your mother." Oh, I think that's so cruel, how that son had treated his mother. After reading that letter, I imagine there was a much remorse of that son of the way he had treated his mother. How terrible that was for him to do that. That story expounds upon two moral messages: the conditional, all-encompassing love we expect mothers to always feel for their children, and the admonition to not put off cherishing loved ones and appreciating their sacrifices while they're still around. If you're here this morning, please give your heart to the Lord. Give roses to your mom if she is still living. Honor her if she is not. A dear mother was dying, I read the story, and we thought she was comatose. Her son told her, "There aren't enough words to tell you how much I love you." A few hours later, she whispered, "Not enough words," and died. Above all, honor her today. This is her special day. Amen.